Hey everyone, welcome to Interview Connections TV. In my last several episodes, I was getting bigger and bigger as I was pregnant with Lucy, who is now here joining us for Interview Connections TV. And as I take care of her and stay home for a little while, I want to release a series of my best videos and the most popular videos that I have put out on Interview Connections TV. So coming up in this week's episode and in the following weeks, you're going to see the best of Interview Connections TV. So enjoy these episodes, and I will be back with you live with new episodes in a few weeks. Thanks so much, enjoy, and I will talk to you next time.
Has anyone ever asked you what a podcast is? And when you answered, did you use a radio show as part of your response? Well, in this episode of Interview Connections TV, we're going to talk about what the difference is between a podcast and an internet radio show. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for today's episode of Interview Connections TV. I'm here with my Vice President, Nathan. This is my son. We are actually in Iowa right now, right on the Mississippi River, so how could I not film a video for you? Let me show you a little bit of this gorgeous background that we have. We're staying right across the street. So how beautiful is that? It's a great time of year to be here. I've actually never been to Iowa, and the leaves are so pretty. Yesterday we watched this huge barge go down the river. I'm sure it was going all the way to New Orleans with soybeans or corn or something like that. But anyway, in today's episode, we're going to talk about what the difference is between a podcast and an internet radio show, because the last statistic I heard was that 60% of people don't know what a podcast is. So often when people ask me what is a podcast, what is that, you know, we kind of use an internet radio show or radio show as part of our description, and that's true, but let's go through a little bit about what a podcast is and how it's actually different from a radio show. Number one, a podcast is pre-recorded. So unlike a radio show where as it's being recorded, it's also being played live, either for people to stream it on the internet or for people to listen to it on FM or AM radio, a podcast is pre-recorded, so you can edit it, so you can record it at any time you want. It's not dependent on when people want to listen to it. Number two, a podcast can be played on demand, and that's one of my favorite things about a podcast. You can listen to it on your smartphone. I use the Apple Podcast app, and I can just pause it and play it back whenever I'm ready. So sometimes I'll listen to an hour-long show and actually catch the whole episode over the course of a couple days because, you know, it's a long show and it's not streaming live, so I can listen to it whenever I want. The third thing that's different about a podcast and an internet radio show is that, you know, with a podcast, you can just schedule it and pre-record it at any time. So you're not relying on when your listeners are tuning in. You just publish it at a certain day and time every week, and then your listeners can listen at any day or time they want. They can listen to it weeks, months, even years down the road, whereas a radio show is just played live at that time. And then unless they choose to podcast the video, unless they choose to podcast the episode, you know, listeners don't get a chance to hear that content. So they're very two different pieces of audio. One last thing is a podcast is by definition an audio or video file that is published through an RSS feed. So often people say, you know, you have a video podcast? Well, yeah, absolutely. Podcasts aren't just audio. There's something that goes through an RSS feed. So Interview Connections TV is something that you can actually watch on iTunes or in the podcast app. So if you haven't done it yet, go to interviewconnections.tv, click view in iTunes, and subscribe to the show so more people can see this awesome content. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to get back to my weekend trip here. We're here for a wedding, and Nathan, say hello. Hello. So thanks for joining me. If you haven't checked out my audio podcast, Roads to Success, visit rtspodcast.com. You can click view in iTunes or view in Stitcher Radio and subscribe. And if you want to learn more about how you can work with Interview Connections to help build or grow your podcast, visit interviewconnections.com. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye-bye.
can only run over the place on the shores. Battle of the years, he's made a claim about